It looked like a safe haven from the raging storm. Their hosts seemed like the essence of hospitality.
You can stay here as long as you like. Wonderful.
But appearances can be very deceiving. Dolls.
Welcome back, and thanks for clicking on my video. In this video, we're going to discuss the art of camp. If dolls are really that creepy? Quick answer, yes. Yes, they are. We're also going to do a shallow dive into the cast and crew. Some great people involved here. Dolls, to me, almost seems like a sister movie to Cellar Dweller. A movie that was also released by Empire Pictures, as well as a movie we've already chatted about here. Both have short run times, 77 minutes. Both have small casts. Both have effects done by John Carl Buechler. Both barely have a plot, and both are fun. I'm one of those that feels like modern horror tries too hard to give the horror context or purpose. Just give me a weird situation and go from there. For example, I think that's the reason the first Halloween movie did so well. We don't know why, we just know what's happening. We get the gist, and we're definitely left to enjoy the results. To quote Stephen King, and honestly, when isn't a good time to quote Stephen King? Nightmares exist outside of logic, and there's little fun to be had in explanations. They're antithetical to the poetry of fear. So without further ado, let's dissect dolls.
Baby, you almost hit them.
You want me to go back and try a second time?
Camp is an aesthetic style and sensibility that regards something as appealing because of its bad taste and ironic value. Roger Ebert gave this 2 stars back in the day, but in his review, he said this, and for once, I agree with him. Ambitious horror movies always seem to be waging a subtle war between good and bad taste. And in the best ones, bad taste wins. Let's face it, at some elementary level, horror is about bad taste, about unspeakable affronts to the notion of a well-ordered society. My only criticism about this statement is that sometimes the subtle war he's talking about isn't so subtle, and that might be where Ebert ran off course with horror. We as a community seek out the camp and the overwrought. Otherwise, a lot of these movies would have died in the discount bins they'd been ushered into, and we'd never have heard from them again. This movie is peppered with some great one-liners and fun dialogue. There's a level of confidence in the writing, directing, and acting that, quite honestly, you don't always get with a lot of lower-budget horror.
The storm. Suppose they know something we don't. Suppose this place is flooding out. Suppose they left for higher ground. Suppose we're trapped here. Suppose
you shut up.
What?
I said I suppose they shut up this place because of the storm.
Before we dive into my standouts, I just want to highlight Bunty Bailey, who plays Isabel in the movie, one of the 80s teens. Her other notable role, that I'm sure we've all seen her in, is the Take On Me video by Aha. Now, back to some of my favorite characters. I feel these 3 carried the movie. They're written so well. Of course, Rosemary runs away with just about any scene she's in. Rosemary is played by Carolyn Purdy-Gordon. We know her from Reanimator and Castle Freak, to name a few of her credits. Here, she's sublime as the evil stepmother. But not to be outdone is Carrie Lorraine as Judy, the aforementioned stepdaughter, and the only self-aware one in the room.
Mister?
Ralph.
Ralph, are you scared?
Oh, of course not. What's there to be afraid of?
His house?
Oh, don't be silly.
IMDb only gave Carrie 4 acting credits. Her other notable appearance would be in Poltergeist 2. Since her short acting career, she graduated law school in 2003 and became a criminal defense attorney. And probably the character I identified the most with, Stephen Lee, as Ralph Morris. Stephen made the rounds through Hollywood. If you watched television in the 80s, 90s, or 2000s, you saw him. Stephen managed to hit just about every classic television series during that time. Sadly, he would pass away in 2014 from a heart attack. Ed Naha. So here's the thing, folks. Sometimes when you're researching for an episode, you come across someone who you find a little fascinating, and suddenly you don't want to just drop his name, show a poster or two, and move on. Sometimes you gotta let others know the reason those characters worked so well. Ed Naha has written for Playboy, The Village Voice, Rolling Stone, Starlog, edited the first issue of Fangoria. He's written over 25 novels, including the novelizations of RoboCop 1 and 2, as well as Ghostbusters 2. And notably, he helped write the script that would eventually become Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I encourage all of you to head down the Ed Naha rabbit hole. The film combines elements of horror, dark fantasy, and fairy tales, making it a unique addition to the horror genre. When the movie opens, and before almost being killed, the two girls are singing Madonna. We know it's the 80s. When they curse at the car, and it drives away, we know it's the UK. But then, suddenly we're transported to this fantasy world, with magic, and quite a few fantastical elements. The lines are blurred, and things become uncertain because we don't know which genre tropes will get pulled out of the hat. Dolls enjoys walking the line between genres and themes, keeping our expectations a little unbalanced. It treads into original territory by not playing it safe and not giving you what you expect. I'll always applaud a movie that heads off into original territory. Dolls deserves a star just for attempting something different. One of the notable aspects of the movie is its use of practical effects and puppetry to bring the dolls to life. For its time, these effects were groundbreaking, and honestly, even today, they hold up astonishingly well. Filming concluded in 1985, but the effects took an extra year to complete, and Purdy-Gordon eventually had another movie, From Beyond, get released between the filming of Dolls and when the effects were finished. The scenes are fun and extensive. You can tell a lot of work went into them. I'm happy this movie was made in '86 and not '96, because by then CGI would have been used. Because the effects here are practical, you get the sense of dread, and the actors actually feel threatened. I wish I could say more about how it all came together, but I can't find much about it. Visually, it's a delight to watch. I do hope you give this movie a go, or watch it again, if it's been a while. It deserves a wider audience, and if we're talking horror history, Dolls set the scene for many movies to come. The Puppet Master and the Chucky movies come to mind. I personally love the dichotomy of a child and childlike man surrounded by world-weary and hardened individuals, and how they each deal with these supernatural events differently. Perhaps the moral of the story here is never grow up. Thanks for watching, and next time on Hogtown Haunts, I'm going to go over some compilation videos. I want to chat about my top 5s, top 5 underrated, top 5 overrated, and just my top 5 in general, just so you all have a basis of where I'm coming from when I talk about these 80s horror gems. Until then, go watch Dolls.